So if you lost the weight through GLP-1 medication, you're not a completely trustworthy person because that is the easy way out and you are cheating. What are we cheating in? Is there a prize? What is the prize? What is the game? What is the competition? Please tell me. Is it just because that you suffered? It was so hard for you to lose the weight and to build the body that you love that you feel like people should be doing that too? Hi everyone, my name is Mima. I used to be obese. I lost all of the weight through a combination of GLP-1 medication, a whole foods diet, and weightlifting. And now I am training to be an endurance cyclist. For those of you who've been here before, as you can see, we're switching it up a little bit. We are filming at a different spot in my office, mostly because I wanted something more cozy, more representative of what my day-to-day looked like, especially with like these kinds of videos where I'm talking a lot about my experience, my journey. You are basically sitting where my computer camera is. So when I'm working every day, this is what people see as a background. So I kind of wanted to try this out and see how it goes. I personally like this background a little bit more just because you can see all my books. You can see a lot more of the space that I spend so much of my day in. And this just feels a lot better, especially sitting on my computer chair rather than on that bed at the back. And I feel like this video, this topic that I wanted to talk about today is actually the perfect sort of video for this new setup, for this new view. And that topic is, why is there so much hate towards people using GLP-1s? I know, very controversial and can be a little sensitive at times, so we'll see where we go with this. Grab some water, your favorite low calorie or zero calorie drink. I have my Zevia creamy root beer right here. It is my absolute favorite. And let's get started. So before we kind of go through all of like the juicy stuff of this particular topic, this question, I think it's important for me to start at the very beginning of my own context of why this question is particularly interesting to me. One is that I came into this whole thing with GLP-1s actually not knowing what GLP-1s were. I talked about this in quite some detail in a video that I just put out about my entire GLP-1 journey, so please do go check that out if you haven't yet. And like I said in that video, I had no clue what GLP-1s were before I actually heard about them in the doctor's office that fateful day that I met with my obesity doctor for the first time. So I had no like pop culture references. I had no idea about this whole Ozempic thing with like the celebrities taking them and getting super thin super quickly, Ozempic face, all that stuff. I had no clue. Like I was absolutely like zero consciousness of that, right? So when I came into like when I first heard about the actual term GLP-1 medication, I was in a doctor's office in front of an obesity doctor who had been prescribing this medication since it first became available. Like the first generation became available in late 2000s, early 2010s. So my first exposure to this term, to this medication, was actually in front of a medical professional with all of the expertise and experience, with, you know, all of her expertise and experience that she's had working with this medication and working with people from all walks of life. And this obesity doctor was in a weight management program that was in a big hospital system where I live. So my first exposure was like very, very legit, factually based from a professional. So I didn't have any preconceived notions about GLP-1s, nothing about all of this stuff in the media or people's experiences on it, because I'd never come across it before in like any platform whatsoever. Because of that, I had no clue about this whole other side of taking GLP-1s. Now, how I found out about the stigma with GLP-1 usage was actually through the 2 weeks between seeing my obesity doctor and taking the medication for the first time. Because after I had spoken with my obesity doctor, I met with a dietitian on staff at the weight management program and then the psychiatrist on staff. So that was like a 2-week time frame before I actually injected myself for the first time with Zepbound 2.5 milligrams. So it wasn't those 2 weeks where, okay, I was introduced to the drug through my doctor and I went down the usual rabbit hole of YouTube videos, Reddit posts, Reddit threads, and subreddits, and all of that stuff to get to know more about the drug, learn and read about people's experiences on the drug so far. And that's how like I came across the Zepbound, Ozempic, Wegovy subreddits, and there are other subreddits too, like the subreddits for the compounded versions and stuff like that. They are a gold mine for people's experiences, you know, people's thoughts and feelings about going on the drug. And what surprised me the most was the fact that there was so much stigma around the medication, right? I mean, again, remember the fact that I came into, like, my first exposure of GLP-1 medication was through a medical professional. So my perception of a GLP-1 medication is very legitimate. It wasn't any different to me than taking insulin for diabetes or statins for high cholesterol or blood pressure medication. So you can imagine how surprised I was of just the negativity that people who really wanted to be on this drug, who were desperate to find ways to cobble money together to get on this drug, that the negativity that they were experiencing from people in their families, from their partners, from their co-workers. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And I was like utterly confused, to be quite frank, because like I said, I equated GLP-1 medications and taking GLP-1 medications for helping with your metabolic disorders to lose weight, like taking insulin for diabetes or statins for high cholesterol. So to me, like, this whole negativity, even oftentimes, like sometimes vitriol towards GLP-1 medications, was incredibly surprising and disheartening. Now, I'm a type of person, I don't really give a fuck what other people think. I will do what I think is best for me with the counsel of whichever professional I am engaging with at that time, of course with the counsel of my husband as well. But I don't give a flying fuck what other people think about what I'm doing or the decisions I'm making. So this wasn't a concern for me particularly. Like, I wasn't concerned that people in my life were going to be catty or spreading rumors about me. That was not a priority. I didn't really care about that. But it was a little bit disheartening for me to see how this was affecting so many other people's lives and relationships, because this is a great drug. I've talked about this in my GLP-1 journey video about how much this drug has changed my life, like literally changed my life, not just because of the weight loss, but because of the lifestyle change that had come with it. So of course, me being me, and I come from a research background, a data analytics and research background, so I wanted to dig deeper and go down a lot more rabbit holes, because that's what we do in this age of the internet. So I spent copious amounts of time with watching more YouTube videos, looking at and reading more and more threads on the various subreddits. And, you know, over these last 12, 13, 14 months that I have been on my own journey and still being active and participating in these spaces, talking about GLP-1 medication and our experiences on GLP-1 medication, I have realized that it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the medication itself. It really has something to do with what you think about weight loss and weight gain in general. What I have been seeing in the spaces regarding people who are against GLP-1 medication kind of fall into this spectrum. On one end, there's like the people who are really against Big Pharma and believe that this is another one of Big Pharma's plots to profit off of people's misery, of people's health issues. And then there's another part, or another end of the spectrum, where people are basically thinking about GLP-1s as a cheating mechanism, where people are just like, people who take GLP-1 medications are not going about it the right way, or they're cheating the system, and that they're using this medication as some sort of fix-all for their problems, basically. So to me, the skepticism from the folks on this side of the spectrum are actually, there is some validity to it, and I totally understand where folks are coming from, because there is that history of Big Pharma prioritizing their profits over people's actual health and quality of life. But you know, GLP-1s have been here for a while. It's just now that it's come into popular culture, like general culture, that we have heard so much about it. And of course, like, this generation of GLP-1 medications have been so effective, right? That's why there is such a an interest in it. Like there's just an overwhelming number of people who have succeeded losing weight on this generation of GLP-1 medications. And for a good reason, because this medication has been produced through the decades of research that started with doctors and scientists trying to understand how our bodies regulate appetite and blood sugar. And that's mostly attached to research around diabetes, right? And it's no surprise that basically the two big pharma companies that have focused on metabolic disorders such as diabetes, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, are the ones who have created and produced this kind of medication. And the next iteration of this medication, retatrutide, I'm sorry, I cannot say that for the life of me. We have semaglutide, tirzepatide, those two I can say, but the next one, retatrutide, the third one, the Reta. We have Sema, Tirs, and Reta. I think I'm just gonna say it that way because I can't say retatrutide. Oh, I just said that. Okay, anyway, the next class, like the next iteration of this generation of GLP-1 medication is being developed by Eli Lilly. So these two companies have been competing with each other in sort of like the diabetes, insulin, metabolic health, metabolic drugs space. And there's actually a really, really, really great podcast called Acquired, which did I think it was a 3 or 4 hour long episode on Novo Nordisk. So you guys should check that out if you're interested in hearing more about the competition between Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, because these two have just been competing in this space for ever, since they both actually started as companies. So it's not as if the entirety of Big Pharma is cashing in on GLP-1 medications, because there's really only two companies that create GLP-1 medications. And the first class of GLP-1 medications, Saxenda, which is, I think, liraglutide, is also Novo Nordisk. So really, it's not as if all of these other pharmaceutical companies have versions of GLP-1 medications. It's really just Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly who have a very select product line for metabolic dysfunction, or issues treating or relieving symptoms of metabolic dysfunction, such as type 2 diabetes. With that said, with the whole Big Pharma thing, I also want to kind of point out that one other big industry that cashes in on our unhealthiness and the fact that we live in such especially in the United States, an obesogenic environment, is big food. Big ultra-processed food who depend on you opening up your wallets to keep buying fast food and junk food. Because a huge part of our obesogenic environment is the fact that ultra-processed food is so prevalent, and that's a majority of Americans' diet. I think it's 70% of Americans' diet is made of ultra-processed food. So that is actually the industry, or the two industries, I would say. So that's big ultra-processed food, big junk food, big fast food, that cashes in more versus Big Pharma.
Hey folks, editing Mima here. So I did a little bit more of a deeper research into this just so I have some better numbers than what Google AI would give me. The US sales for the junk food industry in North America were over $509 billion for 2024. The general pharmaceutical industry in North America, so that's the entire pharmaceutical industry basically, in 2024, their value was around $800 billion, and the revenue for GLP-1 sales in 2024 was around $10.5 billion.
It's not really Big Pharma that we should be watching out for when we're talking about GLP-1 medications. It's really big junk food. And GLP-1s are a threat to big junk food, right? Because, if you go through all of the subreddits that talk about GLP-1 medications, you will see that people have had a lot less hankering for junk food while on this medication. And that's because a huge part of why GLP-1 medications work is because they regulate your hunger and satiety hormones. The very hormones that ultra-processed food really mess up when you eat so much of it. You no longer have the cravings for ultra-processed food the way that you did before GLP-1 medications, because your hormones, your hunger and satiety hormones, and other metabolic hormones and metabolic disorders that you might have because of the overconsumption of ultra-processed food. Those are all leveled off, they're balanced, they're managed a lot more. Me in particular, I have insulin resistance, so that is a primary reason why I got on GLP-1s, was to help manage my insulin resistance. So I would not have the cravings that I did for carb-heavy meals the way that I did before, and that I could maintain a 80-20 whole foods diet and also a caloric deficit to be able to lose weight. So that's sort of like my thinking around for the folks who are on sort of like that end of the spectrum, talking about big pharma and their role in the society's unhealthiness in general. But also want to kind of note that I feel like that argument, that reasoning is so very America-centered, because big pharma is a lot more regulated in other Western countries than the United States is. And you can see that through the difference in how much these medication costs in the US versus, say, the UK or Canada or other parts of, you know, the European Union, for example. Plus, the European Union doesn't have PBMs or pharmacy benefit managers. Yes, pharmacy benefit managers who jack up our prices even more, which is another conversation for another day. So we'll table that, because we have another spectrum, we have another end of the spectrum to talk about, which is the people or this thinking around GLP-1 medications being a cheating mechanism or a tool to cheat weight loss. And honestly, that part, like that side of the spectrum, kind of befuddles me a lot. Because what are we cheating in exactly? Like, tell me, is there a prize? What is the prize? What is the game? What is the competition? Please tell me. We are not in a sporting event where there is an association that writes up the rules, that tells you what is legal to take, what is illegal to take. We are just living our lives, right? And lives right now, for many people, are very, very challenging, especially when you live in an obesogenic environment. And I've said that term so many times. So for the people who have never heard what obesogenic environment means, it's basically a combination of factors that contribute to people being overweight and obese, right? So that's like the availability of food. Are you living in an area where the availability of healthy, nutritious food is not there, is inaccessible, or very, very financially inaccessible, like not just physically, but financially. There is also, of course, the lack of opportunity for physical activity. And we're not just talking about like, is there a gym nearby? Because you don't really need a gym to be able to lose the weight. You need to move a lot. And for some people, it can be hard to move if you're living in unsafe areas, and not just like physical safety of your own security, but also like environmentally unsafe areas, because people do live in places like that. There's also this new lifestyle that we have that is very sedentary, right? Very much from the COVID era of working remotely, sitting in front of a computer all day, being stuck at home for a lot of the time. So there's really no encouragement to get up and move around if you can and are able to complete the work that you're doing by just sitting down the whole day. And of course, there are other factors too, like I mentioned, the environment. Like we have so many chemicals and pollutants that disrupt our metabolism, our endocrine system, and promotes like habits to encourage weight gain. And also sometimes like your own family, your own exposure to unhealthy lifestyles contributes to you being overweight and obese. So that is essentially, like in a nutshell, what an obesogenic environment is. So I know I've mentioned that term a couple of times, but that is like a scientific term. That is not a game. It's not a competition. It's not a sporting event. So I don't understand what we are talking about when people are saying that GLP-1s are cheating. Cheating what? Cheating death, maybe? I don't know, because this medication has been so good for many people who have tried and failed and just could not find the space in their heads because of all of the noise, because of all of the metabolic disruption that they've had. They could not find it to be able to actually build the foundations for weight loss and maintaining the weight loss, right? Like, that to me has been the greatest gift of the GLP-1 medication, is that because my brain was so much quieter on GLP-1 medications, especially my first 6 months. And again, go through my GLP-1 journey video if you want to learn more about my own program on GLP-1s, like what I did nutrition-wise, what I did exercise-wise, etc. It's all there. I'm not going to go through it through this video, but to me, that has been the greatest gift of this medication. And I'm sure because I've read in so many posts and in the subreddits about how much this medication has helped so many people really turn their lives around, right? So there is no cheating here, only cheating death. Because obesity is one of the biggest killers in America right now. But this is why I'm a huge proponent of this medication. Now, do I see merit in some of the criticisms around people using this medication as sort of like a fix-all and not really addressing the root problems that they may have gotten them to where they are in the first place? Absolutely see the merits in that, which is why I'm in the middle on all this. I really want people on this medication to look at this from a holistic perspective and not just from a weight loss perspective. It's really important for them to have not just the medical guidance and sort of the medical monitoring from the doctor who is prescribing their medication, but also to do the mental work to be able to build that foundation. Because to me, like, the first 6 months was not just sort of like the nutrition aspect, the education aspect, but I did a lot of mental work to be able to build the foundations for me to change all my habits and to basically change a huge part of my life so that I am where I am right now, at a space in a body that I am incredibly happy with. Sorry, I'm looking sometimes I look at myself in the viewfinder because today was an upper day for me, and yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. Today was an upper body day, and I'm just like very happy with my gains right now, and I kind of wore this shirt just to show my arms. So I'm sorry for that, but I have worked incredibly hard with my strength training program, and I will show my arms. I have had one person actually tell me, and this person I respect very much. I also very much like her physique. So for her to tell me that if I had your arms, I would never wear sleeves, I took that to heart. And I've always been the person on the other end of like actually thinking that about other women, and I got the receiving end of that comment. So that was a very good day for me. So now you see me with my arms like this. Sorry, I have to like lift up. I'm so short, but yes. Anyway, I am so sorry, distracted by my own self. I am not being, well, maybe I am being a little vain. I'm sorry, but I've worked incredibly hard on this body, not just the physical aspect of it. And this is like one of the things that really gets my goat about the people who say that taking GLP-1s are cheating, because I've worked incredibly hard this past 13, 14 months. I have not just lost 65 pounds. I have also now lifted, like, built a body. I am also an endurance cyclist now. I have basically changed my entire life to be more healthy, to have an 80-20 diet, to be more active. I go and have an activity every single day of the week. 3 times a week strength training, 3 times a week cycling, 1 day a week for Pilates for recovery and mobility and flexibility and balance, etc. So I am an incredibly active person, and I'm not the only one who has done this on GLP-1 medication, right? There are huge numbers of people that have done this, that GLP-1 medications has opened up this entire new world for them. Because they've lost the weight, they feel a lot better in their body. They feel that their body's a lot more capable. So it really gets my goat sometimes when people talk about this as sort of like a tool for cheating. So it gets back to my question, cheating on what? Is it just because that you suffered and it was so hard for you to lose the weight and to build the body that you love that you feel like people should be doing that too? I'm sorry. I'm just like, I am not that kind of person. I am someone who, if I had a struggle, if I struggled to get through something or to go through a process, I would want the people after me to not struggle, which is why I created this YouTube channel to some degree, because I just wanted not only just to share my experience, but to help other people and to make other people feel like they're not alone and that they're doing the right thing for their health by going on this medication and doing it properly and being monitored by a doctor, etc. Let me just sip from my Zevia because I just went on a rant there. I am so sorry, distracted by my own self and now went on a tangent about other people. Anyway, one more sip. So anyway, I don't get that. I don't get the cheating part. I do get the criticism around the, this is not a fix-all drug. And that to me, I think is like legitimate, especially if you're not addressing other emotional and mental issues that you might have that have contributed to you getting to the point of where you are as like an overweight or an obese person. Now, one other thing I've noticed, and this is not in the spectrum that I just sort of ranted about the last, I don't know how many minutes when I edit this, but on my viewfinder, it says I've been talking for 55 minutes. So I don't think my video is going to be that long, guys. Another thing to me is that I have found through these discussions on Reddit, so many people attach morality and character to weight in general. So of course that translates over to what kind of person are you through how you lost the weight. So if you lost the weight through GLP-1 medication, you're not a completely trustworthy person because that is the easy way out and you are cheating, which I don't agree with, obviously, after my rant. The other side of it is that if you lost it the hard way, then you are hardworking and disciplined and all of that. You are a much better person than the person who took GLP-1 medication, which is complete fabrication. Like taking this kind of medication, being disciplined to take this kind of medication and doing the work on top of it is also hard work. Again, I am an example of that. I don't think I would be where I am right now, like a person doing strength training and as an endurance cyclist without my medication. My lifestyle was completely different before GLP-1 medication. And on sort of like another side of that coin, or sort of like another similar coin to that, is when you start talking about GLP-1 medications or using GLP-1 medications, I see so many people receive this as an attack of some kind. And I think it's because so many people who are in like a similar situation, being overweight and obese with a very, very unhealthy lifestyle, they sort of take that as an offense. Like you, as someone sort of like in a similar situation as them, you take a GLP-1 medication, that is like offensive to the other person because they take it as like, oh, so I am unhealthy, I am whatever. And like, again, take it as an offense that you, who they probably see as similar to themselves, taking GLP-1 medications and and making changes to your life and your lifestyle, right? So I see that component of it as well. So there is like a lot of these like internal dynamics of other people, like within their own selves, that makes them despise, that makes them feel negative towards people who take GLP-1 medication. I don't really get that. I see myself as myself and not attached to anyone else or anyone's own journey. Everyone's journeys is their own. I don't see myself reflected in another person's journey. Do I gain wisdom and inspiration from other people's journeys? Absolutely. Like all of these posts on Reddit have helped me so much as well in my own journey. And of course, when I talked to my obesity doctor, like throughout this entire process, like she has also built up her own experience from her experiences with her other patients. So I've also benefited from that expertise and that experience. I am not an island, but I am also not, my journey is also not a reflection of other people. So there is something to say for folks who look at other people and see themselves reflected. There's something that you need to kind of do the mental work for that too. Because at the end of the day, all we want to be is healthy. All we want to be is live as long as a life that we can, a good life, a life where we can chase our grandchildren, a life where a fall won't break our hip and won't shorter our lives even more, a life where we can go up a flight of stairs when we're old and not get winded, even when we're young, not get winded too. So that is really what we're all working towards. There are no rules to that. So you're not cheating by taking GLP-1 medication. You're really just using a tool now that's available, that's been well researched, that's been here for a while, to use it to your advantage with the guidance of your doctors and a medical team to help you through what could be a very, very challenging time and process. Why is there so much hate towards people using GLP-1s? I don't know, man. People have just their own issues that they need to deal with, and people should just mind their own business. But of course, because I'm out here talking to you guys about this, talking to you guys about my own journey, my GLP-1 business can be your business too. I'm here sharing this information and my experience freely. So I would love to hear about your thoughts on this conversation as well. This question, all of this negativity surrounding GLP-1 medication. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please put your comments down below. I am also on Instagram. I post a lot more on Instagram. I post a lot of my day-to-day stuff, even like my gym and cycling stuff. So if that's something that interests you, please go on ahead to my Instagram. I'll post it somewhere here in the middle. And yes, thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy riding.